It's your boy Tipsy Japan back with another episode of ATAS across time and space. Thank you all for joining me today. This is a special episode because it's an interview with a property manager. He's an expert in what he does. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on screen now. And, put your hands together. Put your hands together for Sal Douglas. Sal, go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Sal Douglas. People in the business call me Sal, and I'm a property manager in Hartford, Connecticut. My business, my name of my company is CT Standard Homes.
All right.
Pleasure to meet you.
Excellent. It's pleasure to have you on the show.
It's great to meet your audience, Kareem. Thanks for inviting me.
All right, thank you, and I appreciate that as well, sir. With this audience and this platform, what we're trying to do is make sure that we get the message out there to the next generation across time and space. That's the importance of this show, but then also just talking about different spaces. I like to talk about space. You all know on the show that we talked about a lot of different types of spaces, but for property management, real estate management, this man is leagues ahead of anybody else that I know in this industry. But I want to ask him, how he got started, and a little bit about his business. How does it work? So, yeah, let's start off there.
Well, Kareem, thanks for your kind words. I really appreciate it. I'll give you a quick synopsis of how I got started. I bought my first building back in 2009. And the motivation for buying the building it wasn't a business motivation. It was really, to be frank, my daughter was on the way. And at the time I was contemplating law school. So I wanted to buy something that produced income. So when I was in law school, I could feed my daughter. Essentially, that was the original motivation. I had a cousin in Hartford at the time named Otto. And he had a realtor, and he told me about the opportunity in Hartford, about the multifamilies and how great the numbers were, and how much money you could make. And I drove up here, and I spent a couple weekends at his house, and he brought me around with his realtor, and his realtor started showing me properties. And from there, we went to property after property after property, and I finally found a property that I liked over in Sim Street. It just so happened that my broker, it was one of his private listings, and then I bought my first property.
Hold on. Now, up to that point, had you owned any property of your
nothing.
own?
Okay. After that point, my mother famously would say that I had two right hands. I couldn't pound a nail. I had no skills whatsoever. I did read Richard Poddad. Richard Poddad. Richard Poddad, I read it in my teens, and that book taught me the difference between an asset and liability. So I did understand that. I had a conceptualization that you can't get rich by having a job. You need to have a business. And I think Richard Poddad gave me the foundation to realize that real estate was a something that you could build wealth, something that you could produce revenue, and so it did spark my interest in real estate. But as you said, prior to that, I had zero experience in real estate, zero experience in property management. I wasn't even from Hartford. I was from New York. I was a New Yorker.
Like, what are you doing in Hartford buying properties? Yeah.
For those who don't know, Hartford is about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours away from New York. Yeah. So I was 27 at the time. As Biggie Smalls would say, baby on the way, mad bills to pay.
Yeah.
So stuff was getting real, and I had to make a move. I had to have pressure out. Pressure was on me. My daughter was coming.
Yeah.
This wasn't a joke. I myself wanted to go to law school at the time. And I said, man, if I'm away at law school, what can I buy? What can I invest in right now that produce revenue that's not tied to me?
Yes.
And real estate. Luckily, I credit Otto in bringing me up here and telling me, yo, this is an opportunity of it. These properties are cheap and you can buy it. When I ran the numbers in Hartford, the great thing about Hartford is that the numbers are great, right? At the time, back in 2009, the evaluations were lower, right? So you could buy a property for 100,000. You can buy a property to 140,000, and back in 2009 was high.
Yeah.
That was like, man, that was, you know, nosebleed. My cousin would say nosebleed. When he would see a property for 140, you would just dismiss that, man. That is, you know.
Yeah.
They try to disrespect you, you know what I mean?
But so at that time, that made sense.
At the time, 100,000 was a regular property. You know, 100,000 was a regular property. 120,000,
right?
You could buy, you know, you could buy rehab for 50,000. You know, now just in comparison, today, 2024, those same properties are being sold for 350,000 and up, between 350 and 450. Right, those same properties that were selling for 100,000.
Wow. Now hold on. So you had to go in there with $100,000 in your hands and just
no.
say, here.
No. See, that's the great part about Kareem. That's the great part about real estate. Real estate, you only have to put a percentage of the property value down, right? So let's say my first property, I actually bought it with a FHA loan, a 3% down loan. So I only have for
3% down,
140,000. You know, I only have to come up with, you know, 7,000 or so. Maybe around 7,000 down to buy that property. And that property had 3 apartments, three bedroom apartments, producing, you know, let's say the rents back in the days were $900 an apartment. So you do the math. You know, 9 times 3.
Hold on. So this is a turnkey. Is that what they call it? Turnkey?
Well, the first property I bought is Sim Street. Again, my realtor. It was my realtor's listings. It was my realtor's listing. So it was a bit. You would probably describe it as a complicated sale right now. In that it. So basically, we'll go through. Hopefully, maybe in future episodes, we can go through the process of buying a home. Right.
Okay.
One of the steps in buying a home. One of the steps in buying a home is the bank appraisal. Right. The bank has to go in the bank sends an inspector to the property to appraise, to go to the property and appraise the property to see if the appraised value is in the neighborhood of the sale of the property of the number the property is being sold at.
Okay.
Right. So this property, prior to buying it, there was a water leak. And a whole bunch of damage happened to it. Right? For the property to appraise, my realtor Craig Inge from Hilltop Realty. You know,
all right.
Give Craig a quick plug there.
Yes.
But my realtor actually had to put in a lot of work to get the place ready for the appraisal. And this is, you know, back in 2009. So he had to put in a lot of work to get the place ready, so that when the bank appraiser came, the property would appraise.
Okay.
You know, but as I said,
so the realtor helps to prepare the property for that.
Right. Now this is not really his role. This was an informal, you know, this was was something that his client was selling the property and I'm buying the property. So this is something that he kind of did to help.
It's in his interest.
It's his interest for the deal.
If it's client's interest, then it's in his interest.
It's his interest for property to close. You know. So, but as I said, I knew nothing about property management, nothing about real estate. You know, of course, you know, after buying the property, I took time to educate myself. I read books. You got skin in the game. So you're right. But since then, I've read many books on real estate. You know, I joined Bigger Pockets. You know, the real estate, the real estate social media website. You know, I listened to the podcast. I read books and I educated myself on real estate, on the business, so I can be successful. And of course, you're gonna make mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. I brought in the wrong tenants inside the buildings. I learned through error. You know, that's what business is about: learning through your mistakes and improving. So
how did you feel? How did you feel about, you know, the making mistakes, but also being in the hot seat? Because you got a baby that's in this world, right? Like, that's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of weight on your shoulders, and it's like, can I make mistakes? Is it okay to make mistakes?
Because my why was so strong.
Your dharma.
My why. You know,
that's dharma.
Was my daughter, and also so again, the initial purpose was, hey, can I get something that generate revenue when I'm away from school. I can, pay for my, pay for my daughter.
Yeah, yeah.
Later on, it became, hey, look, when I could hold this building for 20 years and then pay for my daughter's school. So that was the secondary reason as well. So that why was so strong that any obstacle I faced, I just overcame that. I just, ran over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the why was so strong. The why was strong enough that it didn't matter what I went through. I just continued moving forward and persevered.
Okay. Now you're talking about something that hit very strong yesterday. Because I was doing a little research about the way that the mind works, right? And it's basically in every single situation in life, there's at least two choices, right? You got the painful choice and the not so painful choice. The more this and the less that choice. There's definitely two things that you can do. And we have a tendency, the way that the mind works, consciously, is that we tend to choose the thing that's more pleasurable or less painful. Yeah. But in the long term, it's usually the thing that's kind of painful at the moment, but has good benefits later that would benefit us more.
True. Right? But part of it, I think, as well is do you like what you do? Right. So you need to persevere. You need to have discipline, which I did have. But I like what I did. I like property management. I like working with my hands. I like dealing with my tenants. I like real estate. I like what real estate affords. I like constructing properties for people to have safe places to live. I enjoy that. You
enjoy all of that now. You enjoy all of that now, right?
Right. But what I'm saying is
beginning at the gate.
But what I'm saying, to persevere, you need to like what you do as well.
Oh yeah,
you need to like what you do. I like what I do. I like the business. I like building stuff. I like building a bathroom, and I like I like the grind. So even if it's pain, it's a pleasurable pain.
Did you like it? Did you like it from the beginning? Like
that
those first steps, all of that uncertainty that you had at the very beginning.
It was hard.
Yeah,
but I like the other thing is I like business, right? I like business.
You like that in the first
business. Yeah. I like business and reading about business and for you to stick to something that's difficult, you need to like it. I think you need to like it. It's something that passion. I've had debates with other friends about this and what brings success. Do you need to be passionate about something?
Yes. Do you need to be passionate? Yeah.
Before, I didn't think that passion was needed, but recently I've come to kind of discover that you need passion, and why passion is important is that passion allows you to persevere, allows you to continue to work harder. Work doesn't seem like work because you like the work. So when I'm working in my apartments, like I like the work. I like the not just the work of what I'm doing with the bathroom, but the whole picture of getting a property, renovating it, renting it out, managing the tenants. The whole thing, I like it, man. It's something I like. It brings me joy. I feel happy just talking about it. You see the animation.
Yes. Yes.
So that was part of it as well. The passion for what I do is part of it as well. It has been part of my success, I think.
Okay, well let's talk a little bit about the business then. All right. I mean, you're talking about the man and the passion that he has for it. But what is the work itself? I'm going to show like a little bit of a clip here. You want to go with the bathroom or the kitchen clip? We got a few different shots.
Well, so we're gonna see right now a project I'm working right now in East Hartford. It's I'll give you a little background. A tenant. This is a property I bought in right before the pandemic. I think 2019. This particular unit had a tenant in there for about 17 years, and these folks were habitual smokers. So if you can see some of the pictures. Nicotine is all over the walls, and and the whole bathroom was dated. So this particular bathroom I had to gut out, and I had to, when I gut out, meaning I had to strip it down, strip down the walls and take out the toilet and
Yeah.
And as you can see here, this particular bathroom was gutted out. If you can go over the video, I can show you the. I actually added. Yeah, actually, you could press play. Okay. Yeah, actually. Oh. This particular one actually changed the window because the window wasn't working, and I actually you could press pause on the ceiling fan. I actually changed the ceiling fan as well because the ceiling fan was not vented outside, So I actually drilled a hole in the ceiling and put put a vent out there, and then I reran the electrical as well. I made sure that the electrical was all up to code and in good working order.
Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. I see
Well, so, actually, that's the old electrical. So that's before. So all that stuff I replaced. I replaced all that stuff. So it's all new and modern. The box, the box was replaced, and So,
but it seems so complicated.
Well, just to give you to give you a step by step of what I did with this particular project. So this particular project. So after I did the electrical, and as you can see with this picture, you can see that yellow cord right there. That cord is going to the that's a 20-volt cord. That's typically right. Bathroom power usually go with instead of 15-volt, they go with 20-volt. So that's a 20-volt cord. That's the just to let you know, the yellow one is 20-volt. The white one is usually 15-volt. So this particular one, we ran a new cord here for 20-volt outlet. I put in a new tub, and from there I sheetrocked from there I put in the diverter. I installed the diverter. You don't see the diverter here now, but it was installed soon thereafter. And then I sheetrocked the bathroom, and and Kareem is going to show you the finished product. So just in general, the renovations I do is people. This is the finished product here, where yes, it was tiled. The bathroom was tiled, and this is the absolute finished product. You can see the you can see the tile work. I brought in the gentleman from Ecuador to do the tile work. And as you can see, was painted and new.
Okay, so you don't necessarily do every single thing yourself. No, sometimes you fly people in from El Salvador.
No. Well, Hartford has a good tradespeople, right? So there's I have electricians, plumbers I work with. There's different people I work with, So more and more as my business grows, I'm trying to outsource the labor. This particular job I have, I had a gentleman do the tile work, and then I did the rest of the work. I put in the toilet, I put in the vanity, I did the plumbing. But more and more moving into the future, I'm trying to bring in tradespeople. As you try to scale, as I'm dealing with more and more apartments, I can't be doing the work physically myself.
So, I mean, at first, when you first bought that property on Sim Street,
right,
and that you were working with the realtor to get it ready, for tenants and everything, or ready for the appraisal. So has it always been this process of working with people in the community to get the property to where it needs to be?
Oh, absolutely. In my early days at Sim Street, I worked with a guy called Hugo. So as I said, Craig just helped me to get the infrastructure ready so that it can be appraised, so get the walls up, that kind of stuff like that, So when I took over the property, then I had a guy named Hugo who managed the adjacent building, and Hugo was the one that kind of helped me to get the place in a position where it could be rented.
So you never just had to do the whole thing by yourself,
Well,
sometimes it happens.
So initially my strategy was was buying turnkey properties, right? Was buying properties that were not, because I didn't have the experience to do the work myself. So when I came in, when I bought my first property, Sim Street, it was basically a turnkey property. I hired Hugo did all the work. I didn't do any of the work, you know. And then the second property I bought in East Hartford, the same thing. It was a turnkey property. I brought in people to do the work. Where I really started doing the work was when I bought a property over in Maple Avenue. I bought a 3-family in Maple, and for that, I specifically bought that property because I thought that I wanted to get the experience that, quite frankly, some of my other cousins had. You know, they had more experience with hands-on to do the work hands-on. So I bought it thinking that I'd be able to renovate it floor by floor. Of course, it turned out to be a much more involved renovation than I had anticipated. I lost all 3 tenants. I had all kind of problems. 101 things happened in that property. We don't want to get into that right now, but
yeah. But you eventually. The point is, you stuck in there though. Like you didn't. I mean, did you toss it? Or?
No. I mean, it was difficult. But again, I mean, just to give you a brief story, what happened was that the 3rd floor of the property, I had ran out of money. It was gutted. I had no money. The whole floor, 3-bedroom, was gutted. There was just stone. There was just studs there.
Yeah.
And I was there by myself with my drill gun. I had no money whatsoever. I had no money. So I had to basically get sheetrock, and my cousin Mark came over. He taught me how to sheetrock. I didn't know how to sheetrock. Yeah, Mark came over, taught me how to sheetrock, and he taught me how to sheetrock. And from there, I learned the skill, and I sheetrocked the whole apartment by myself. Again, my other cousin Hakeem came over, helped me with the plumbing. I didn't know nothing about plumbing. You know what I'm saying? Hakeem came over.
What a learning experience!
I'm telling you, Hakeem came over, helped me with the plumbing. Again, going back to my cousin Mark, put in the window. I didn't know how to put in windows. I had to learn from those guys. I had to, Mark showed me how to put in the window, and from there, I replaced 40 windows in the building.
Wow,
so it was a process of learning on the run. Just Hartford for me has been a process of just being uncomfortable, being in a constant state of being uncomfortable, just learning new things. And of course, now there's YouTube, right? So anything you don't know, you can just put it on YouTube and you can watch a video and you'll know it in 10 minutes.
Do you need to be uncomfortable in order to get that growth?
Oh,
because people that watching YouTube just like this,
No, absolutely. To me, to grow in life, you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Right? You need to be comfortable to be in the zone, because when you're in a zone of learning something, it's uncomfortable. Those people who can develop and learn the fastest, they're uncomfortable. They're comfortable being uncomfortable. Right?
Why do I need to be uncomfortable in order to get the growth?
Well, whenever you're doing something that you don't know, there's always a feeling of there's not a feeling of comfort. People are comfortable doing things they know, right? So whenever you're doing something you don't know, you're uncomfortable. The question is that can you stay within that zone of being uncomfortable until you can figure it out, and then you become comfortable in that zone. So that's how you make the uncomfortable comfortable. But to do that, you have to persevere through the uncomfortableness, So,
well, what helps you to persevere in those difficult times? Is it the purpose that you were talking about before? Is it
purpose?
Just muscle memory? Again, that it's going to be better after.
For me, it's the two things. One is the why, and two is I have a passion for what I do. So those two things married, I think that has brought me to success. I like business genuinely, and then there's a why, and then of course later on down the road, you understand that real estate is a great investment tool, right? You can't get rich. You can't get rich with a job, right? You need real estate. You need to understand the difference between, going back to Rich Dad Poor Dad, you need to understand the difference between an asset and a liability. So I understand that real estate are assets that if you invest and cultivate, it will give you dividends.
How long does it take to get to those dividends? Like, how long does it take to reach that point where, okay, like, I know this next purchase or this next building is going to be uncomfortable for a little while, but like, I'm not in survival mode anymore.
Well, you know, in whatever you spend your time in doing, there's something called the compound effect. In the compound effect, meaning that there's a snowball effect, and you get better at doing whatever you do. So whatever you do, you keep doing it, you're just going to get better doing it. And there's going to be a compound effect over time, and you're going to improve. So if you continue doing real estate, you, just like any other job, you're going to pick up skills doing it. You're going to learn lessons. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn lessons. You're going to become better at it, just like any other job.
Now, did you learn that, like, because of your university degree, after the university degree, like this whole compounding effect and all that business? Is that from a good book? Like how did you know? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've always been a person who read a lot of books, right? So the compound effect comes from Warren Buffett and his, you know, The Intelligent Investor, his famous book that his
The Intelligent Investor.
The Intelligent Investor was written by Warren Buffett's mentor, Benjamin Graham. Right.
Okay.
So it's a book about, you know, about value investing and you know, gives you a lot of the technical stuff about, you know, how to evaluate a stock from a value standpoint, you know. But the compound effect is kind of, you know, is one of, Warren talks about that as far as the investing and when you dollar cost average into a stock over time, over a period of time, there's what you call a compound effect, where that step gains value over time.
Okay. Now, again, is it something that you read in the book? Yeah. Right. But to actually feel it yourself, like viscerally, like I can see this compound effect. I'm feeling comfortable with this. I can hang in there.
Well, when you see it now, is that I'm at the end result of the compound effect, right? And when I'll give you an example in that, and you know, I think I told you before, when I get a phone call right now from a tenant about an issue, I no longer feel fear. I'm no longer apprehensive about what I'm going to encounter because I've encountered it all already. You know, I've seen it already, right? Everything that's done, everything that's happened, everything that could happen, I've seen it already, right? If I have to tear the wall down and rebuild the wall, I can do it myself, right? If there's anything that happens, I can fix it, or I can research it, or I can call somebody. So I no longer feel that fear. I'm no longer uncomfortable. I'm now comfortable in a zone of uncomfort. You know, I'm not, you know, you know what I'm saying? Because
you've seen all the different permutations.
The work, the hours I put into real estate, it has brought me to a point where I'm no longer uncomfortable. I've seen it all already. You know, and not just from an experience standpoint, but I read books, I listen to podcasts. I have the knowledge behind me, you know.
Vicarious mastery experiences, what they call it.
Right. And I'm not saying I have mastery. I mean, mastery is not, mastery is an elusive
it's well, thing, if you've put in 10,000, 1,000 hours is the first line, right? If you put in 10,000 hours, now you've just about seen everything. But if you put in 1,000, and that's, you know, looking at the 80-20 principle, that's basically all the work, you know.
Right.
Like you've reached that plateau where, you know, if it's a house, if something's wrong, I can fix it. I know how to find the resources to get it fixed, or I can do it myself, one way or another. Right. You've reached that plateau.
And not just about the fixing part, but let's face it, right? The core of real estate is tenant selection. Can you select the right? Can you get the apartment ready to make it, as they say, dummy proof? But then, can you select the right tenant to put into that apartment? Right? You select the right tenant. You select the right tenant for that apartment that you've made dummy proof. That you've made. You have a great as you know, my formula. You have a great bathroom. You have a great kitchen, great floors. It's a great environment. The building itself you built is safe. Especially when I say safe, I'm talking about a lot of our properties we buy are in urban areas that have issues here and there. Right? Can you make your building safe? Can you make your building a safe haven for your tenants, right? No, you know, so if you can build that environment for your tenant, then you select the right tenant. You have an environment in your building that's safe, right? You have the apartment itself is above average as far as a bathroom and kitchen cleanliness. Right. Your hallways are clean. There's no, you know, your infrastructure is good. Then you have what you call a long-term tenant, and that's what you want, right? The holy grail of real estate is a long-term tenant, a tenant that's going to be in your apartment for 5 to 10 years, right? Can you select the right tenant? One, can you select the right tenant? Selecting the right tenant. Now, of course, there's a lot of rules and regulations.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. How do you select the right tenant?
Well, you can't discriminate against people, right? There's certain classes that are legally protected, you know, sex, race, gender, right? But there are certain characteristics that a landlord can discriminate against. For example, credit score. For example, eviction history. For example, criminal history. For example, you know, there's dogs or whether they have dogs or cats, whether they smoke. You know, there's some. You talk to the landlords. You talk to the landlords about them. So there are different characteristics you can use. You talk to the physical contact between you and the tenant, you know, meeting the person, you know.
How often do you have to talk to these tenants? I mean, not have to, but you know, if you're trying to just build a good relationship with them, make sure that they don't go south, you know.
Well,
how often do you talk to the tenants?
I'm trying to select my words on this, but
okay, all right. Okay, hold on.
But you know,
I'm gonna take a sip. I'm gonna take a sip as I ask that question.
I'm gonna take a sip before as well.
Okay. You know, I don't gotta rush out there. Choose your words wisely.
But no, you know, you have to. I think you have to. You can't change a tenant, right? You can't. Someone that's being evicted multiple times, or they have a low credit score, or they don't have a job. You can't change those characteristics about a person, right? So that's why the tenants, you use the characteristics that can indicate, can tell you the most about that tenant, can most reliably predict if that person is going to be a good tenant, right? So you use those that you can. Hey, what I go off of is eviction history. Has that person been evicted, right? Because if that person's been evicted before, it's a big likelihood that they'll be evicted again, right? Right?
Go ahead.
You know, as my, you know,
that's the line. That's the line.
Yeah. So they've been evicted, all right. So have they been evicted? So that's the first thing I check. Has that person been evicted, right?
Okay. So hold on. So you tell me, if the person has been evicted, like how do they get ahead? How do they get shelter going forward?
That's a good question.
That's not for you to answer.
That's a good question. That's but keep in mind, Kareem, a person that has a building, I have to pay my mortgage, right? I have to pay my mortgage to the bank. The bank doesn't want any story that I can pay my mortgage.
Not concerned.
So really, what tenant selection is, Kareem, is I look at it from an actuarial standpoint. From just as the insurance agent, when you go for car insurance, they look at your record, and your record indicates what your monthly payment will be, right? So I'm looking at you from your record. Does your record indicate that you will be a good tenant, that you will pay your rent, that you'll follow the rules of the building? That's what I'm looking to find out.
So you say the record. You say the record, like credit score. Credit score is included,
right? Credit score comes into as well. Credit score, absolutely. Credit score comes into as well.
Is the credit score system like functioning properly in your opinion?
But I can't get into that. That's not my business.
No. Not any. Hold on.
I just want to know your credit score. I don't know.
No particular person. This is your critique on society.
No, Kareem. How the credit agency does their business, that's not my business. All I want to see is your credit score. Right?
But you consider the credit score a valid barometer.
Absolutely. Because it tells
something
you
about character. Yeah.
Because the credit score tells you your history of paying bills of meeting your obligations, paying bills, your that you've said you would pay? Do you have integrity, right? That's what the credit score tells you, right? Now, the legality and the fairness of the agency, I can't get into it. That's above my purview. You know, I can't. I don't know about that.
That's the rules that we got to deal with in the society. I'm not
to find out. Hey, because the whole question is, I have an obligation to the bank to pay for this property, right? If I bring you in as a tenant, will I be able to pay the bank? The tenant is the one, I'm taking that revenue and paying the bank off, and also maintaining the property, right? So the landlord has to look at it from an actuarial standpoint to say, hey, look, what is trust? Hey, will this person pay off? Will this person pay their rent, and will I be able to pay my mortgage? It's very simple, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like trust. It sounds like a matter of trust.
Right.
So, you know, like your child trusts you to take care of business.
Absolutely.
You know, can you trust these tenants to take care of business?
Of course,
right?
and of course,
the credit score tells them.
Of course, and of course, you see the kind of quality apartment that I'm giving a tenant. I'm giving you an apartment that is above standard.
The space,
a space that is superb. You know, when you have a problem, I'm responsive. I fix the problem. You know, I'm a responsible landlord. I'm not a slumlord. So I put blood, sweat, and tears into the game, into the business. So at very minimum, you know, your rent and certain rules should be followed, you know.
Okay. So as far as it regards to the rules and taking care of their space, as long as they do that, they're considered good tenants.
Well, a good tenant, I would say is, you know, a good tenant is the one that pays their rent, obviously, you know. As you said, the second question is, do you take care of your space? Your apartment itself, do you you know, keep it in a certain way, good standing?
Right.
You know, of course, I would like to have a good relationship with the tenant as well, but you know, that's not
a bonus.
Mandatory. That's not a bonus.
Cherry on top.
Right. That's a cherry on top. But is that the other question is that person, are they manageable, right? Or are they cantankerous, you know? Are they hard to get along with, you know? Are they are they difficult, right? You have some tenants that are difficult that you may not want to, you know, that's the other factor as well. No one wants to deal with someone that's difficult, right?
So if you get in this situation where you've rented the place to somebody that's difficult, what do you do?
So generally speaking, I keep business, right? So I don't get involved with. I've had tenants in the past I didn't like, and I still rented to them. So I don't get involved in personal things with tenants. It's a business to me, you know.
Right.
But once your behavior starts to affect the other tenants, that's where I draw the line, right? Right. So if you're breaking a rule that, for example, I have one tenant that has a bunch of cats, right? You know, and she feeds the cats outside, and you know, sometimes that behavior negatively affect. I may have a tenant in the building that's allergic to cats, you know. So then when that behavior starts affecting other tenants, then I have to step in there to maintain the rules. You know, I always say in the law there's a saying, it says that I have a right to swing my hand as long as it doesn't hit your nose. You know what I mean? So I always say that when whatever you do starts to negatively affect other people, then that's a problem, right? So that's where I go with other tenants, right? If what you're doing negatively affects another tenant and their quality of life, then that's a problem. We have to curtail that behavior.
Curtailing, but we only have one thing that you can do, right? I mean,
well, there's eviction.
Press that button,
But before you get to eviction, there's warnings, there's communication, there's you know, that's why I try to maintain a good relationship with them. I try as much as possible to you know, to maintain a good relationship, because you want to eviction is really the nuclear option. It's really an option that you don't want to use as a landlord, and the tenant should not want that used on them as well, because again, evictions adversely affect the tenant's ability to get affordable good housing in the future.
Future housing too, yeah.
So it's not something I want. It's not something I do with glee. It's not something that I take joy in. So I try to exhaust all of the options before we get to the eviction stage. But if we get there, if that is the only option available, then unfortunately we may have to, it's something that,
Now here's a question, and this is just coming from an educator's perspective, or a people management perspective as well.
Right.
Do you need to, for the most part, do you need to grow the tenants? Meaning,
I don't think you can grow tenants.
You can't grow tenants.
You can't grow tenants. You bring in, people are who they are, right? I think at the end of the day, people are who they are. You can only bring in tenants that have already, that can conform, or they're, I can't. In other words, to me, because you and I have both been teachers, right? To me, the classroom is about behavior management, right? It's about creating a system to manage behavior.
Yeah.
Right. Now landlording, it's a little different in that they're adults. You're not dealing with children. So it's not, of course you could have the system. I have the system. And
old people. They're old people. I don't know if they're all adults properly, but go ahead.
Right. I think, of course, you have to have a system, right? And my system is that I have clean hallways, clean property around the properties. I like to have flowers and stuff. I like to have an ambiance around the properties that people want to live there, right? Whether it's a clean surrounding, flowers, it's clean hallways, nice bathroom, nice kitchen. That's my formula. That's my formula.
Okay.
So, and then I try to pick tenants that can appreciate that can appreciate what we're bringing here to the table, right? But again, someone that's been evicted 3 times and has a credit score of 400, and I'm not sure you can make that person conform to, you have to pick someone that's already has at least meets a bare minimum.
Now, folks are at different stages in their life, though, when they can appreciate certain things. When you're younger, there's things that you appreciate. When you're older and you've been around, the block a few times, you realize, man, it would be really nice just to have these things together.
That's the thing. That's why, again, from when you look at what car companies do, younger people have higher insurance than older people, right? Because younger people are gonna make worse decisions just based on their age than older people.
Right. So do you? How do you combat the tendency to notice these patterns as regards to age? How do you stop yourself from being an ageist?
Well, you can't. That's why you have to.
You do not.
You can't. That's why legally you can't, right? So that's why you have to, again, meet with the person. Everyone has a story. Everyone has everyone can tell you what happened with their life, and you can get a feel. Again, an application is not just the raw numbers, but it's also talking to the person, meeting to the person. So I use all those inputs to make that decision.
Okay. And when you make that decision, I'm just wondering, how often is that person within the, we'll say 20 to 25 or 20 to 30 age range, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60? How often are they in that first 20 to 30? And the question, the reason I'm asking this question is because some of our listeners are in that 20 to 30 range, and they're thinking, what you can do with their life.
You can be 20 to 30 and be responsible, right? You can be someone that's responsible at 20 to 30.
You may not have a track record.
In other words, you can. Part of what we look at is that if you're a non-Section 8 tenant, then hey, how long have you been employed, right? So if you're 25, for example, the last person I put in last year, I put in a young lady. I think she was about 28 years old, I believe, and she had a long employment history. 3 years working, you know, she has the income, right? So there are some criteria that if you're 28 years old and you had a job for 3 years and you meet the income threshold. I didn't mention this before, but we also use the industry standard of 3 times rent, right? So if your income must be at least 3 times rent if you're a non-Section 8 tenant, right? So if you meet my income threshold and you have a job for longer than 3 years, you know, that tells me that you're stable. You know, you got things going. You got, you know, and then I may talk to your landlord. I say, hey, you know, I talk to the landlord and I usually call up a part of my process. I call the previous landlords and I say, hey, you know, can you tell me about this tenant? What, you know, have you had any issues with this previous tenant? Sometimes they'll be more frank than other times. It all depends, right? You know, so you have to parse what a landlord tells you because there could be a situation where that landlord wants to get that problem tenant out, so they may fabricate certain information to you, right?
They have no obligation.
Right, there's no obligation to be truthful about it, but you can kind of read through what they're telling you and kind of sense their candor if they're being truthful or not, you know. Or the other thing you do is you call the previous landlord, not just that landlord, but you call the 2 previous landlords and you say, hey, you know, would you rent to that person? And judging from the conversation, you can kind of, hey, you know, you ask them some questions and what do you think of it? You know, sometimes they'll tell you. Sometimes they'll give, you know, they'll for example, there's one young lady that through this one landlord I called and he told me that the lady was smoking in the apartment and it wasn't an issue, and he wanted her out because he's moving to Florida, right? So what is it? Is it that she's smoking in the apartment and she's not listening to you, or is it that you're moving to Florida? So you'll be able to, in the conversation with the landlord, if you ask more than one question, you'll be able to more get a sense of what's going on, you know?
Yeah. And do you enjoy that though? Yeah, do you enjoy these conversations with the people?
Well, it's you know, again, because of the compound effect. I've been doing it for such a long time, and you get better at it. You get better. I wasn't good at it. Put it this way, Kareem, I wasn't good at it when I first began. I had all kind of problems. You know, I was selecting the wrong tenants, and also I probably wasn't a good landlord. You know, I didn't know how to fix issues. I had issues that I didn't know how to fix. You know, so on both sides I wasn't all that good. But the more you do it, the more you become better at picking the right tenant and also preparing the apartment. As you can see, the bathroom that I showed you, I could not have done that 14 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't know what tile was. I didn't know what tile was. Grout, you know, and
sheetrock.
I had no idea about that. You know?
What color? This. I mean,
I mean,
it all seems very, very alien to me. But
my realtor Craig, he has a story of when we initially were going to buy the property to get it ready for appraisal, and we were going to sand it. And I came in with a full body suit. I came in with like a full body suit. He laughs about it today. He laughs about it today.
Yeah, you know? You're not supposed to.
He laughs about it like, yo, you didn't know anything, and he was true. I really didn't know anything. You know, that was a fact.
Wow. I mean, were you just trying to protect yourself from the asbestos or something? Because like that's a real thing.
I mean, I didn't know what sand. You know, I thought maybe you were sanding the wall. Yeah. You don't want the dust all over you. Let's put a full body suit. So I came in there. I came in there with a full body suit, like it was, you know, it was anthrax or something. You know, it was. You know, but again, I mean, I've grown. Again, the compound effect is like, hey, listen. You continue to put in the work. I tell my daughter all the time, continue putting the work. Eventually, you're gonna get better, and the compound effect is gonna kick in, and it's gonna snowball. The snowball is gonna get bigger and bigger, and you're gonna benefit off the compound. You know, the compounding of you putting in the work, and I put in the work.
Okay, so we talking about the work, and there's one thing I just want to kind of touch on before the conversation evolves into the next thing, I guess. But I wanted to ask, is this for everybody? You know, because we send out this message. Yeah, we send out this message into the future. Who should get into this industry and who should keep out of it and just keep paying rent?
All right, so
and chill out.
So it's a complex question, and I'll give you a complex answer to it. In that,
I will unravel it.
I think investing is for everybody, right? Investing is for everybody. I think the society tells you that everyone should go to school and get a job and work and make money, right? But it doesn't tell you that everyone should invest their money. I think investing, people should spend equal energy going into school and investing their money, right? And or probably even more energy investing their money, because investing your money gives you the ability to have more free time to do the things you want to do, right? That's what it comes down to. Investing your money gives you the ability to free up your time to do what you want to do, because your money is making money for you. Once your money is making money, once your money is working for you, you don't have to work as hard anymore, right? So that's why you should start a business. That's why you should go into real estate. That's why you should invest in stocks and bonds.
One of those three. One of those three. Everybody should invest in one of those three.
When I say investing, is that whatever you do to grow your money, whatever you do to grow your money, whether it's a business, whether it's passive or active, right? What I'm doing, I'm running a business, is active, but you could do passive investing. You could invest in the real estate syndicate, where you invest your money with someone like myself, a business person that does the physical work. You could invest in REITs. You could invest in REIT. A REIT is a company,
real
is
estate
a stock
investment trust.
Real estate investment trust, that a big company that manages big pieces of real estate. You know, you could invest in stocks. You could invest in a stock over a long period of time.
But how do you know? How do you know whether, if you give your money to one of these big companies? Because I think this is one of the hurdles that keeps a lot of people out. They look at guys like Bernie Madoff, who made off with all that cash, right? Or they look at these debacles with the cryptocurrency. The biggest one, what was it? The big one that just disintegrated last year, right? Put all this money into these big companies, and they say, oh, they're going to take care of you, and you get these, great investments, 15%, 20%, 40%, whatever, massive returns that they promise. But then at the end of the day, they see like something like Lehman shock, and all these people, like, their retirement accounts are emptied out, just making away with billions. And like, oh, I'm not putting my money over there. I see a lot of people in our communities specifically that stay out of investment because of that. Well, are these just excuses, or are they valid? And what would you say to them?
I mean, here's the deal. Do you invest your time in learning the different disciplines of investing, right? I have a cousin of mine who says that he compares in the different investing types to the different martial arts types, right? Martial arts, you have taekwondo and karate and jujitsu, so you have different investing types. Can you spend the time today, in this day and age? We live in the information age, where all this information is available for free or at a very low cost. Free being on YouTube, at a very low cost being a platform like Udemy, where you can buy a course for $15 and it teaches you all the information you need to know. There's also
Academy,
there's also networking groups. There's also mentors that you can get, right? So if you have a urge to learn, then the information is out there for you to learn. You just have to have the desire. You have the desire to improve yourself. I particularly have always had that desire to learn and improve. So I've had that. Luckily, for whatever reason, I've had that. I have had desire to always continue to read books to improve. Right. So you can be your own investor. You can learn the stock
invest
market.
in your mind, so that you can make more money.
Because Kareem, think about it. People get taught to say, hey, look, you got to go to college. You go to college to learn how to get a job, right? So if people can learn to get a job, they can learn to invest. You know what I'm saying? In many ways, learning to get a job is probably harder than learning to invest. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Wow.
You know, learning to invest is probably easier than learning to get a job. You know,
it's not that hard. It's
people
really
go
not
to
that
all
hard.
kind of schools. They go to all kind of schools, masters, PhD, all that
Yeah.
stuff to work to get a job, you know. But
Yeah.
to think to say, hey, look, I have $1. How can I make that dollar into $5? People don't spend the time to learn to do that. And I'm saying anyone, in my opinion, anyone can do it, right? Anyone can do it. Do you have the interest to put in the time to invest in yourself to continue to get better? That's the question.
Anybody can do it, but not everyone will do it.
The issue is that people don't have the interest to do it, right? They'd rather watch Netflix or...
Well, that's what they could do with that dollar. They could enjoy the dollar.
We are trained. We are trained to say, let me go to school to learn to get a job, right? We're not trained to let me buy this course to learn how to invest. Right? Everyone, I tell my young cousins this, you know, everyone should at least their first real estate their first real estate purchase should be at least a multi-family property, right? Going back to Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
Your first property, make it a 2-family or make it a 3-family, right? That way your tenants can pay the mortgage. And the money that you work, you can invest that money. You can save that money, right? That if everyone just did that one thing, people could be on the track to building wealth. You know? That one move, that one decision would put you on the track because keep in mind, again, go back to Rich Dad Poor Dad. Rich Dad Poor Dad, he said, which one is the better move, a single family or a 2-family, right?
Yeah.
Kawasaki says a 2-family is better because the 2-family generates income that you don't have to work for, right? So a single family, if you lose your job, you can't pay the mortgage.
You up?
A 2-family, the other tenant is paying the mortgage. So the mortgage could be paid in theory, even if you don't work, right? So if you so think about it, you buy 2-family property, Kareem,
right?
And the tenant pays the mortgage.
They're paying the mortgage.
You still work, right? So that money now can be used to invest, to compound
any money you make
on the real estate side. You know, you can compound that money in the real estate. Sorry. You can compound that money in the stock market, right? You can dollar cost average in the market now. Get a high quality company to invest in, and you can divert that money to make more money from you, right? Think about it. If you have a single family house now, you have to pay the mortgage. So that money that you would have spent for the mortgage, you have to continue spending it on the mortgage, you know?
Hold on. So I think I got it. So you got a 2-family house, but you got to buy the 2-family house with at least 3.5 down on this FHA loan.
Right.
Like basically, right? To be honest, I'm gonna tell you, this house right here, 0 money down because this is Japan. This is Japan.
That's Japan.
That's magic.
Right.
But if he said, okay, 0 money down on a 2-family, right, and then the other person is paying the mortgage,
right?
Are you just making off then at that point, right?
You're making off. So then now the next step to that now is that the money that you would have spent on the property, you can now take that money and you can do 2 things. You could either you have two choices now. You can one, spend that money for your personal enjoyment, take trips every year or whatever, spend money and blow money on cars or whatever, liabilities really. Or you can spend money on more assets. You can spend money on more assets. You know? So you can either save money to buy more property, or you can dollar cost average into the stock market to make more money.
What's this dollar cost average? Dollar cost average. As we hitting this one, you gotta tell the folks what this dollar cost average means, because
dollar cost average is that. So people in the stock market, they say, hey, look, stock market people say you can't time the market, right? So which means that you can't buy buy a stock and decide whether it goes up or down. You don't know what movement the stock is going to make, right? So what dollar cost average is that you invest money, you buy stocks every month. Every month you buy stocks. So you buy stocks when they're down and you buy stocks when they're up.
Oh, you just throwing money at it, huh?
Right. So what is it? You buy the one it down or up, so that it averages out. When you dollar cost, it averages out to a better price, a lower price.
Oh,
see what I'm saying? So you dollars, so you buy the one that goes. You buy it every month. Every month you buy it.
Because on average,
you buy stock.
The stock market is increasing in value over time.
The stock market increasing the value. So over time, you're gonna you'll make money over time. So you buy, if you buy it every month, you buy, of course, you'll buy it when it goes up and you buy it when it goes down.
Yeah.
Over time, as you said, over time, equities are increasing in value over time.
Right.
So the whole theory is that you can't time the market. You can't say, well, on the stock goes down,
so just buy it all the time.
Buy it every month. Buy it. No, of course, the key to it is that you have to buy a high quality company. You can't buy
okay. You're not just talking about just buying
any company.
Index.
I'm not talking any company. I'm not talking any company.
Okay.
Of course, you could do stuff like the total stock market. You could do SS. You can do index funds like the.
That's what I was thinking.
You could do QQQ. You know, you could do stuff like that. Just, you know, things like that, or I would say high quality index funds or mutual funds.
Hold on. Let me just
contra fund. One of my funds.
Everyone, he's gonna continue, but I just had to put that disclaimer out there. We are not licensed professionals in this field.
We're not licensed professionals.
Do not listen to this as advice and then go and buy these things that we're telling you to do. Listen to your advisor,
no,
financial advisor.
Forget about advisor. Take time and buy a book. Listen to a course on YouTube. Yes. Educate yourself. Spend time to educate yourself. You know.
Okay.
That's it.
That's the message. But go ahead and tell us a little bit more.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more, because you were saying like you got index funds, you got QQQ.
Yeah, you have index funds. You know, you have. I mean, I think those are the top three general ones that people talk about. QQQ.
Do the derivatives still make sense? I mean, there were a lot of wild options out there. You know, things are just, you know, going up, going down in value, very volatile. Derivatives.
I mean, to me, options trading is for people that know what they're doing. I go back to Buffett, right? Buffett says that he only invests in stuff he knows about. I don't invest anything. Anything that I don't. Anything that's simple, anything that's complex, I stay away from. Anything that that I don't understand, I stay away from. You know.
Okay.
So now if I read a future,
they weren't that complicated. They weren't that complicated back in 07.
Futures. Futures is very risky thing. It's a very risky asset class. Again, I've built the expertise in real estate. I would like to continue to invest in real estate moving forward. You know, as far as again, right now the interest rates are high and the property values are high, so it's difficult to buy. It's difficult, and it's questionable whether you even want to invest right now. So if there's a downturn, I want to be ready to be able to purchase properties. Maybe even, I don't know what the future holds. Maybe even new construction. You know, or maybe even building apartment buildings, and and then those are the areas I'd like to move in myself. You know, the stock market, as you know, I don't have a expertise in that area per se, but I can't ignore the wealth generating potential of the stock market. So because of that, I research companies and I try to invest my money.
Yeah, wisely. I mean, a lot of these guys out here, you know, your Charles Schwab's, your Options Express, and so on, like they do give you virtual accounts that you can just play with, you know, virtual money, and just see how the money moves. And it's basically free to sign up, right? So you study up in a book, put in your virtual funds, and then see how they do. And you know, that's not actually having skin in the game yet, but you can see, like, had I invested at this time, I would be making this much.
Absolutely.
Right? And then you actually go ahead and do it. Put some in that money, that was it, money market account, MM account, and play your hand.
Now the advantage to real estate, I think for the common man, I think real estate is probably a safer option. Right. And the reason I say that is that real estate, I control my investment, right? I control the environment that I have a property that I purchase around. I control the environment. I control the infrastructure, the maintenance I do in the property. I control the tenants I put in the property. right? So there's a lot of things that I can control that will have an impact on whether the business succeeds or fails, right? I am the CEO of my business.
You have a strong internal loci, as they say. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Now, with a stock now, I don't. There's a lot of stuff I don't control, right? I don't control,
no control at all. Yeah.
The product that they produce, the service that they sell, the number. Whether I don't know whether the numbers that they tell us are the real numbers or not. So there are a lot of things I don't control. So that's the advantage of real estate. And as you know, as I've told you in the past, real estate, there's two ways you can make money. There's one through appreciation of the property, right? You buy a property for $100,000, the value of the property goes up over time, right? I bought that property for 2009 at $140,000. Today, the property is worth $400,000, right? So the appreciation, I've made money through the appreciation, the increase of value of that property over time, right? That's one way you can make money in real estate.
Hold on. Let me just make sure I got this. If you sell the property when it's worth a whole lot more than what it was when you purchased it at, okay.
Of course, you have to pay taxes on it too. You have to pay step up. You have to pay the step up of that. You have to pay you have to pay a tax on that. It's a step up basis. They say they call it. You have to pay on it. But the bottom line is
your wealth is higher. Yeah.
Capital gain. There's a capital gains you have to pay on it. But separate from the capital gains, you still bought it for 120. You bought it for one. So let's say you held it over a 30-year period. Let's say you bought it for 120 and you had a 30-year loan and you sold it at the end of the 30-year loan term. So you had no loan on it. Right. You bought it for 120. You paid off the loan. It's now worth $400,000. So you can now cash out at $400,000. Right. So that's called that's called equity. You can benefit off the equity of the property, right? That's one way.
Okay.
That's one way. The second way you can make money in real estate is through cash flow of the property, which means multifamily properties have rents. They have to individuals who rent these properties have to pay rent, right? When you take the cost minus the rent, right? When you take the cost of the property, which includes the mortgage and all that stuff, minus the rent, then you have a cash flow number, right? And that cash flow, is a number that it's money that the landlord can make. So you have a cash flow figure of the cash flow of the property, and you have the appreciation of the property. So those are the two ways you can make money through real estate.
I mean, but you couldn't even combine the two. Like maybe you find yourself in a position right now, you got a single family, but you've been paying on it for the last 10 years. I mean, you could refi.
Appreciation. You could benefit through appreciation, right? That's how do a single family property you could benefit, right?
It's appreciated. When you say appreciation, but it's not like selling the property per se, but you might be able to take out a loan against.
The equity is being paid off. The loan is being paid off, and you're building equity through the mortgage being paid off.
So could you take that equity and then go and buy a second property?
Absolutely. I've done that in the past as well, where I've paid off a property and I've took a home equity line. They call it house hacking, right? Where you cash out the equity of the property and then you use that money now to buy another property. It's called house hacking.
Is that an advanced technique, or just about 3, 4, 5 years in the game is probably okay to go ahead and once you've studied up and see how it works, and go ahead and make that move?
I wouldn't say it's advanced. It's something that people in the industry have talked about and people use all the time. Of course, now it works better in a low interest rate environment, right? If you have a low interest rate, because keep in mind, when you refi the property, you're refining it at the current interest rates. Right. So if you refi now, let's say you have a property that's worth $300,000. You refi now. Let's say you pull out most time you could refi for what they call 70% ARV. So you could refi. You could pull out 70% of the equity of the property. So let's say you have 100,000. You pull out 70,000. That 70,000 you could now use to you can use on another property. But then the whole $100,000 loan now, that's going to be at the current interest rate. that's there. Whatever interest rate is there right now. Right now it's at 7-8%.
7-8%.
So around 7-8% in the US.
Yeah, in the US.
7-8%.
I get hit.
The question is that, sorry to cut you off. The question is that the 70,000, can you put it on another investment that is cash flowing as well, right? If you can put it on another investment that cash flows, even at that elevated interest rate, it may be a good investment.
Right. If the cash flow makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I like this. Right? I like that idea. I really like that idea. Just listening to you and writing it down. Like I got all kinds of notes right here, but it's like just listen to that. All right. You need another property. I'm hearing like you need another property with cash flows, right? Don't stop just paying the money out. If you got a couple stacks, if you got a couple stacks right now, there's a better way to use that money so that you don't have
to work. At this interest rate, there are deals right now in the market right now that you can cash flow. You can. It's of course, it's at a higher risk, right? It's a higher risk, being that the rents are higher, the mortgage is higher, but there are properties. The question is, the good thing about this market is that the rents are higher as well, right? So your costs are increasing, but the rent is increasing as well, right? So for example, when I came to Hartford, a 3-bedroom apartment was going for $900, right?
Okay.
Right now, a 3-bedroom apartment is going for $1,600, $1,700, $1,800.
Yes.
Right now. So the rents have substantially increased in Hartford.
Is it a bubble?
I wouldn't even say a bubble. The rents again.
And if it pops tomorrow, sorry folks, if it pops tomorrow,
I mean, I don't think it's again.
It doesn't feel like a bubble.
The real estate, there's the real estate market, right? Which is what we see right now, which is the real estate market, and that market is dictated by supply and demand, right? Right now, you have a low supply and a high demand, so that's what's really pushing up the prices, because you have a low supply, right?
Why do you have a low supply? What does that mean?
Well, you have a low supply primarily, I believe, because of COVID. It all happened in COVID, right? And when COVID happened, the government gave a lot of mandates to the banks and to mortgage companies to keep people in their homes. The banks learned from what happened in 2009, where a lot of people lost. There were a lot of foreclosures and a lot of inventory in the market. That inventory dropped down the market, right? And when this COVID happened, the government learned from 2009. They said, they told the mortgage companies, hey, look, keep people in their homes. We don't want any foreclosures. You don't want you to foreclose people in this pandemic. Okay. Right. So that kept people in their homes, and it stopped that plummet that probably would have happened. Right. So you have a lot of people not selling. The banks are not foreclosing, so they're not selling. Right. That's one piece of it. The second piece of it is that since 2009 to 2019, you had a long period of low interest rates. Right. So a lot of people who are in their homes, they have low interest rates on their homes. They have lower monthly payments. So those people are not eager.
They don't want to sell their homes. Yeah,
those people are not eager to sell, because if they sell, then they're going to have to buy something at the higher rate, at the higher price. Right? So those, to me, those two things, people are not eager to sell. Yeah. People are not eager to sell. I think that's a major issue. And also, people are being kept in their homes by these COVID regulations, even though that these COVID regulations have expired, but we're still not. These people are still not letting go. This, I still feel they're going through the legal process. The legal process has to turn over. The legal process has to change to these judges have to put these people out of their homes.
That's not happening. They're not gonna. Right now, they're not doing it.
Yeah, because
election year too. Yeah.
It's like, because trust me, for what we've seen right now, it happened right. This happened. This is a pandemic era issue. These elevated prices, it wasn't like that before the pandemic. Before 2019, prices in Hartford were were, you know, 120, 130, 140. After the pandemic, that's when, because the supply was limited, and the demand continues to grow. Demand continues to grow, but the supply is low. Anytime, just basic economics, anytime you have low supply and high demand, you're going to have high prices for product.
So do you see, and this is probably going to be my last question, because, you know, we're running on the longer side of the day, and I want to fill your glass for you, sir. But
it's all good.
do you see that if the administration changes, we're not political at all, folks, we're looking at the economics and business. That's what we're looking for. All right.
Yeah.
But if the administration changes, do you see this real estate market continuing into the foreseeable future, or the next 2 to 3 years, short term?
Yeah, listen. As I said before, I think it all hinges on supply, right? If the supply increases, then prices can come down. And well, it doesn't all the interest rate also impacts things as well, right? I think the lower interest rate, people are more apt to buy properties. You know, it also generates more demand as well. But the main thing is the
White House. Well, I don't mean to cut you, but the White House decides who's in the seat, right?
Well, I don't know if you also heard Biden's State of the Union. I think he also, in President Biden's State of the Union, he also proposed a $10,000 first-time home buyer credit. You know, and I don't know if you remember, but back in 2009, when I bought, I actually was the beneficiary of that one of the $10,000 first-time home buyer credit in back 2009. So that, but again, even that itself, that only increases demand, right?
It does increase demand. I got the money going to buy it. Yeah.
The issue is supply, right? Will you have more home builders building properties in America and putting properties in the market? Will you have more homeowners selling their properties on the market? Will you have more courts willing to evict, willing to foreclose on properties? Those are the three things that will dictate the home prices moving forward, I think. Right?
Well,
if you have a higher supply, I think prices will come down. You know, as a matter of fact, prices are already coming down in certain markets in America already. There's certain markets right now that prices are kind of coming down. But in Hartford and Connecticut, that's not the case in Connecticut. But in other markets, it's already starting to come down because you have supply itching up there. So I think eventually it will happen. I think eventually you'll have a situation where supply outweighs demand. I just don't know when it will happen. I think eventually it will happen.
And it probably doesn't matter which guy's in the seat.
Yeah. I don't think
it shouldn't.
It shouldn't matter. I mean, again, Biden's the one that's proposing the $10,000 first-time home buyer credit thing. Yeah. You know, now what we didn't cover was landlord states and tenant states, right? You have some states that are, more favorable to investors, more favorable to landlords, and you have some states that are less favorable, right? So let's say a state like New York would be a tenant state, right? There are a lot of rules and regulations that restrict and limit what the landlords can or cannot do, when they can evict, when they cannot evict, that stuff. And then let's say compared to a state like Georgia now would be what you would call a landlord state, where the landlords have more of the rights. The rules are more skewed towards the landlords. You know, so that's another factor.
Plantation owners.
Right. So a place like Georgia, you don't pay your rent within 30 days, you're out of there. You know, the marshal's at your door, and you got to pack your stuff and leave. Place like New York, you can be there for a year, and you know, and the courts, the person can continue to manipulate the courts to keep them in there, right? So that's another factor that when you consider where to buy, you have to ask yourself, hey, is this a landlord state or is this a tenant state? Either state, you could make money. Either state, you could make money in New York. It's just that you got to be on your game in New York more. I feel like in a landlord state, one has to be more skilled in landlording to make money, because mistakes are punitive. Mistakes are most of the consequences of mistakes in a landlord state are more severe.
In the landlord state.
Stakes are higher. In the tenant state, it's more punitive on the landlord mistakes.
Okay.
Right. So you have to also keep in consideration the laws in the area, right? The laws in the town that you buy in, what those laws are, right?
Does that mean like you need a lawyer in each one of these states to help you out, or just do the homework? Do your homework.
You could work initially. You could do the homework initially. Again, there's a lot. We're in the information age. There's a lot of information out there, free information that you can just use Google or ChatGPT or whatever your choice is. You can use to get that
with all that hallucinations,
all that stuff. All that stuff. ChatGPT is there. It's no joke. But again, I think one of the common themes here that we've discussed is doing your research, investing in yourself, getting the knowledge through resources, whether they be online, whether they be through ebooks, whether they be through audiobooks, whether they be through podcasts. Today we live in an age of so much information that it's just a matter of, do you have the interest to spend your time in acquiring that knowledge? That's the question.
Well, that's a good question for sure. You got the internet with all the knowledge out there, right? But it's not really parsed, right? You need to know how to find what you're looking for and how to make it useful to yourself. And that, in that sense, books kind of have it organized in such a way that it's easier to digest. My question, though, is if you had a book, and this is like my magic wand question, because I like to ask, my folks this as well. But if you had a book that could teach you how to do something that would make your life better, make your life better, make your family's life better, make the community better. If you had that book, right, and you haven't read it yet, but if you could wave a magic wand and create that book right now, what would be the title and the prologue of that book?
Man, that's a hard question,
Basically, what would it be about? The missing thing that you just kind of wish I had a book about this, or I wish that a site had this organized in such a way that it's easier to digest, so that not just myself, but I could give this to my daughter and she could just take it and run with it, and her life would be that much better.
Yeah, I'll go back to probably the most impactful book I've read the last 5 years is The Power of Now. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. That's probably the most impactful book, I would say, because it kind of teaches you how the mind works. How to, the mind is a machine that works a particular way, right? But I think, once again, to harp on a common theme in our discussion, is that the traditional establishment, the traditional education, they don't teach you about the mind, right? They teach you about education, going to school, but they don't teach you about how the mind works, how thoughts work, how how you can utilize autosuggestion, how you can utilize prayer, how you can utilize meditation to program the conscious mind,
Neuro-linguistic programming. Exactly.
Neuro-linguistic programming. So if I was to try to tell her anything, is really to spend time learning about Buddhism, learning about, again, meditation. I've been having some conversations with my daughter about that recently, about meditation, learning about meditation. Spend time to learn about this thing called the mind. Is amazing. You know what I'm saying? Just one of the companies I invest in is Tesla, right? And Tesla, one of the biggest things Tesla has right now, one of the biggest projects in the future is FSD, full self-driving, right? So they're trying to right now they're trying to incorporate AI to drive in full self-driving, so that AI now dictates where the car goes. Before they were trying to script every action, every interaction, every scenario. They were trying to script it. Now they're using AI, artificial intelligence, to do it.
Because they got enough data.
So
all of their cars are data, just going straight into the data center, feeding this neural network of their AI.
Right. But it's so amazing. It's so, what they're learning is that it's so difficult, right? So in other words, what the mind does with just a casual action of driving, right? Any human being from high intelligence to low intelligence can drive, right?
Not any, but okay.
Not anybody, but
anybody, reasonably,
even older people with a diminished ability to comprehend and stuff, they can still drive, somewhat well, right?
Okay.
Now, what they're understanding is that to train the AI, that AI is getting the good thing about AI is that it's getting, because the processing speed the chips that they're built on, every year they improve exponentially, right? So AI, they think within a year will be able to exceed human capabilities to process, right? So eventually AI will exceed human beings, right?
The AGI, you mean? Yeah.
The AGI, right? They will exceed human beings eventually, because the processors will just exponentially improve what we can process, right? Because that's the issue. But just keep in mind, again, what a person can do, a regular person can. So what we're saying is that a regular human being has this kind of processing speed where you're driving, right? And you can make a calculation that person's coming at 80 miles per hour. So I can't make that right because I don't want to hit that person. I can't make that left because if I make that left right now, I'm going to hit that person. Right. So I bring that up. I bring that up to say that the mind is amazing. What the processing and the ability of the human mind is amazing. It's amazing. The calculations that we make in our minds on a daily basis is mind blowing. You know what I'm saying? Just walking, just being bipedal, walking, and the balance, and you know what I mean? They're doing robotics right again. Tesla's doing robotics right now. They're trying to teach robots to be bipedal, and that's taking years. Again, eventually they'll exceed human beings eventually, but they haven't done yet. So I bring it up to say that any human being has amazing ability, man, amazing ability. But all that is tied to the mind. Can you control the mind? Can you program the mind? Do you have discipline? All those things are factors that I don't think education really teaches you.
It doesn't. It does not. I mean, I'm not looking at the hippocampus. I'm looking at the hippocampus, the PFC, prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, the opioid circuit, and the nucleus accumbens on my wall right now. Right? I'm trying to teach myself because they don't teach you that in school.
They don't teach you that in school, man. They don't teach you that in school.
So the power of now. Help these young people understand their minds better.
The power of now teaches you. It separates first of all, it teaches you what the ego is, right? What is the ego? Okay. Again, I didn't know what the ego was prior to reading the book. I thought the ego was, abstract, some kind of abstract idea. After reading the ego, I understood what the ego is and how the ego affects how you interact with other people and how you interact with the world. So prior to that, I had no idea about it. I thought that the ego was an abstract concept, And then it kind of teaches you about the mind itself, how it works. Again, it doesn't teach you everything. It starts you on a journey of discovery, right? And really, to me, you have to meditate. You have to go into meditation now to really get into it, But as I said, the conscious mind is 5%. The unconscious mind is 95%. So most people that you and I are talking with one conscious mind to another conscious mind, right? But there's 95% of us, the 95% of us that we don't even know. We have no idea,
And the 5% is more than enough to get the job done.
The 5% is more than enough to get the job done. So what if you're able to understand? I hate to be a movie now, but what if you're able to understand that 95% and be able to program it to get the things done that you want to get done, right?
Was that Lucy? I think that was Lucy. Yeah. yeah.
I'm serious, man. So if I was somebody, I'd say, hey, man, I would study that. I would study that subconscious, man. I'd study that mind. I'd really understand the animal that is that are human beings, you know, and then the machinery. Yeah.
Okay, so now would you lock that in a book? Would you put it in what media would be the best way to absorb that information on how the mind works? I mean, you said, you know, The Power of Now is an existing book, but is it a how-to? Does it have steps? And if it doesn't, then
yeah, right. If it doesn't, I would, you know. Now, do I possess the knowledge to write that book right now? I don't think I possess the knowledge.
No, that's what the wand is for. That's what the wand's for. You know,
right? I don't think I possess the knowledge, but if I did, I'd have to acquire the knowledge on the mind and how to program the mind, and you know, I would try to write a book on that for my kids to understand it, to understand the mind, understand how memories impact you, how experiences impact you. I mean, you know, we as adults, we're going off decisions that we made as children, right? As you know, as an 8-year-old, I said to myself, man, this cream thing doesn't make sense. I'm not aware of cream, you know? And literally from there, I never wrote cream again. I dismissed cream. You know, so as an adult, I'm not wearing cream now. So I have to ask myself, yo, is that decision I made as a child, was that a right decision? Was that based in logic, right?
Right.
Or, you know, so those kind of concepts of questioning assumptions, questioning beliefs that you had as a child, right?
That's a process.
You try to reconcile that and say, hey, does that make sense, right? Does that float water? And if it doesn't make sense, I have to change it, right? So many adults are going off stuff that antiquated stuff that decisions they made decades ago that have no relevance, you know? So I feel like understanding the mind, understanding, you know, Eckhart Tolle talks about you are not your mind, right? Says you are not your mind. You are not your thoughts. One of the key words he says at the beginning of the book, you are not your thoughts. And that's a deep question. Are you your thoughts? And if a thought passes through my mind, am I attached to that thought, or is it just a passing cloud? Right. So those are some of the ideas those are some of the ideas. So when you understand that I'm not my thoughts, and ideas come across my mind, I let it pass and I just keep it moving. I'm not my thoughts. That's just that's just an idea that came across my mind, and I can just let it slide off, you know?
Right. I mean, you know, taking that time to observe those clouds that pass through your mind, and not being 100% attached to them, not feeling guilt because of them, not feeling pride, not feeling pride because of it. Oh, I had a great idea, but you didn't turn it into reality yet, you know? Like, it's a whole lot that happens right there. And a book like The Power of Now helps you to realize that, and then actually turn it into some action steps so that you understand yourself better. That's what I'm getting from that conversation right there. It's been a hell of a conversation, you know. I always tell.
Enjoyable.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for inviting me, Dream. It's been great enjoying some vino with you. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying my cup as well. I got to fill it up after, and you know, we could probably enjoy the after party as well. Yeah. But you know, for the listeners, I mean, you've got it, folks. You've got the core of the message right there. We always say, go ahead and get yourself a pen, a pad, and write it down, because look, that's what it is. That's what it is, folks. Writing it down, you can actually play out these different scenarios and see what's going on in your mind and start to understand that gray mass a little bit better. Right.
And I think the a bigger message is that we as minorities, we don't have to wait for reparations. Of course, we should get reparations, right? Our ancestors, did toil in the ground, and we should be compensated. But we can make our reparations. You can buy the block. It's not something that's far-fetched that you can do. No, you can own your block, and once you own your block, then you can influence your government to make changes that they should make. So all these are things that are possible, right? And if you put in the time in yourself, if you invest in yourself through reading books and gaining knowledge, and creating a plan to implement whatever you want to do, you can achieve it. You can buy the block. You can own your neighborhood. Instead of complaining about what the police are doing, you can direct the police to you can direct the police to take action or here and there. So I think we as minorities, we've been trained to kind of take a back seat and wait for this and that. People give us a job. You can create your jobs, right? I can one of the great things of what I do is that I can employ black and brown people, right? I employ white people too. Anybody really. I have great people that are black, brown, and white that work for me that can now take that money that can improve their lives, right? So I think hopefully people can use this message to empower themselves, that anyone can do what I did. It's not anything, it doesn't take anything special or any special superpower, or anyone can invest in themselves and achieve their dreams, All
right, well, folks, today's the first day. Today is the first day. Kizuita higa kichijitsu is what they say in Japanese. The day that you realized it was your lucky day. Now, what are you going to do with it?
That's right.
It's your boy TPC Japan. I'm joined with Sal Douglas of CT Standard Homes.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
That's what it is. Peace.